After my dad passed away, Mom demands money for my brothers, threatening to limit my access to them. So I decided to look into it and figure out what she's spending her money on. What I found out shocked me. My name is Maria. I'm 24, graduated from college with honors, and landed a job most of my classmates would kill for. Everything was going great until Dad got sick. Dad was always the backbone of our family. He worked as an executive director at a trading company, making enough money to support Mom, my two younger brothers, Ethan, 13, and Noah, 11, and me. Mom never worked a day in her life. She was always proud of being a stay-at-home mom, though I sometimes wondered what she did all day once we were at school. When Dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer, everything changed. He deteriorated quickly, spending his final 2 weeks in a coma before passing away. I still remember the hollow feeling in my chest when the doctor called me at work. "I'm sorry, Maria. Your father didn't make it." The funeral was small. Mom cried dramatically, clutching at her black dress while my brother stood silently beside her, too young to fully grasp what was happening. I held their hands tightly, promising them that I'd always be there. After the service, Dad's lawyer, Mr. Peterson, asked to speak with Mom and me privately. "According to your father's will, his assets are to be divided equally between you, Mrs. Carter, and you, Maria," he explained, sliding a document across the table. I nodded, expecting to hear about Dad's savings, investments, and the house. Dad was always cautious with money. He'd lecture us about saving for rainy days and making smart financial choices. "So what exactly are we looking at?" I asked. Mr. Peterson adjusted his glasses. "The family home is the primary asset. It's valued at approximately $350,000 and the savings?" I asked. There was an uncomfortable pause. "There don't appear to be any significant savings in your father's accounts," Mr. Peterson said, glancing at Mom, who kept her eyes down. "That can't be right," I said. "Dad always saved. He made good money." Mom finally looked up. "Your father didn't have savings, Maria. The house is all he left." I wanted to argue, but this wasn't the time or place. Instead, I told Mom that she and the boys could continue living in the house. I had my own apartment and a good job. They needed stability more than I needed my half of a house. In the weeks that followed, I visited often, bringing groceries and taking my brothers out to give Mom some space. But something felt off. I couldn't reconcile the father I knew, practical, responsible, and financially secure, with a man who died with almost nothing in his bank account. One evening, while Mom was in the kitchen making coffee, I brought it up again. "Mom, I've been thinking about Dad's finances. It doesn't make sense. He earned a good salary for years." Mom's shoulders tensed. "What are you implying?" "Nothing," I said quickly. "I'm just confused. Dad was so careful with money." "Medical bills," she said, turning to face me. "Cancer treatment is expensive, even with insurance." It was a reasonable explanation, but something in her tone made me uneasy. "Can I see the statements from his accounts, just to understand better?" Mom hesitated, then went to her bedroom. She returned with a single sheet of paper and handed it to me. "This is the final statement," she said. "As you can see, there was only $372.14 left." I stared at the paper. It was genuine, showing Dad's account with just a few $100s remaining. But it didn't show any history, any withdrawals or transfers. "Were there other accounts?" I asked. "No," Mom said firmly. "This was it. Your father never had large amounts saved, Maria. I don't know why you thought otherwise." I dropped the subject, not wanting to upset her further. But the questions lingered. Mom and the boy settled into a routine without Dad. I visited when I could, but work kept me busy. Then, about 3 months after Dad's death, Mom called me. "Maria, we're having money problems," she said, her voice strained. "I need help with the bills." "How much do you need?" I asked. "The property taxes are due, and there's the water bill, electricity," she trailed off. "I hate to ask, but the boys need new shoes, and the pantry is getting empty." "I can send you $700, I offered. "It would be tight with my rent due, but family comes first." There was a pause. "That's not enough, Maria. The boys need so much right now. They're growing boys." "Mom, I'm trying to help, but I have my own expenses. Maybe it's time you considered getting a job." Her response was immediate and sharp. "I've never worked, and I'm not starting now. I raised 3 children. That was my job. But Dad's not here too." "I'm not discussing this further," she interrupted. "Either you help your family properly, or you don't. I'm waiting for the money." Then she hung up. The abruptness of her response left me stunned. This wasn't like Mom, or maybe it was, and I'd never noticed it before. The next day, I drove to their house without calling first. Mom wasn't home, but my brothers let me in. They looked thinner than I remembered. I opened the refrigerator. It was nearly empty. A half gallon of milk, some condiments, and a single apple. Is the fridge always this empty? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. Noah nodded. Pretty much. Mom says food is expensive now. I closed the refrigerator door, a knot forming in my stomach. Something was very wrong here. When Mom returned home and found me with the boys, her smile seemed forced. What a surprise, she said, putting down her purse. I noticed it was a new one, designer brand if I wasn't mistaken. I wanted to check on you guys, I replied, gesturing toward the empty refrigerator. What's going on, Mom? The boys said this is normal. Ethan and Noah looked uncomfortable, shifting their weight from one foot to another. I felt bad involving them but needed answers. Boys, why don't you go play video games for a bit? Mom suggested, her tone suddenly sweet. Once they were gone, her expression changed. How dare you question me in front of my children? Your children are hungry, Mom. I'm concerned. We argued for nearly an hour. Eventually, I gave her another $700 watching as she tucked it into her new purse without much gratitude. I'll go grocery shopping right now, she said, in a tone that suggested I'd offended her deeply. I'll come with you, I replied, not trusting her with the money. The shopping trip was tense, but at least the refrigerator and pantry were full when we finished. I hugged my brothers goodbye, promising to visit again soon. On the drive home, my phone rang. It was Aunt Linda, Dad's sister. Maria, how are you holding up? She asked. I'm okay. Just left Mom's place. How is she? She called me yesterday, sounding desperate for money. I nearly swerved off the road. She what? Said she couldn't pay the electric bill, that the boys needed new clothes. I sent her $500. It's not the first time either. My stomach dropped. When else has she asked you for money? Oh, every month since your father passed. I figured she was struggling, being a widow with 2 boys and all. I thanked Aunt Linda and hung up, my mind racing. If Mom was asking Aunt Linda for money, who else was she calling? Over the next weeks, I discreetly contacted other family members. Uncle Robert had sent $600 last month. Cousin Jackie had helped with $300. Even Dad's elderly mother had sent what she could from her fixed income. All while Mom was carrying a purse I'd seen online for $1,200. I called Mom that evening, determined to confront her. I talked to Aunt Linda, I said, skipping pleasantries. And Uncle Robert, and Grandma. There was a pause. So, you've been asking everyone for money while claiming you can't feed my brothers. What's going on? That's none of your business, she snapped. I'm doing what I have to do. It is my business when my brothers are eating ramen for dinner while you're carrying designer bags. I need that bag for job interviews, she lied smoothly. What job interviews? You told me you refused to work. I can't work. She changed tactics. My health won't allow it. This was the first I'd heard of any health issues. What health problems? Many things, Maria. Things I don't discuss with my daughter. I took a deep breath. Mom, this has to stop. You need to get a job. Asking everyone for handouts is shameful. Shameful? Her voice rose. What's shameful is how little you care about your family. I need more money this month, Maria. Not $700. I need at least $2,000. What? No way, I've already given you. If you don't help, she interrupted, I might have to limit your access to your brothers. For their emotional well-being, of course. The threat hit me like a slap. You wouldn't try me. I sent her the usual $700 that evening, furious and hurt. She responded with a text, not enough. I warned you. True to her word, my brother stopped answering my calls the following day. At first, I heard ringing, then nothing, straight to voicemail. They weren't responding to texts either. After 3 days of silence, I drove to their school and waited outside. When Ethan and Noah emerged, they looked surprised to see me. Why aren't you guys answering my calls? I asked, hugging them both. Noah looked down. Mom took our phones. She gave us these old ones instead. He pulled out a flip phone from his pocket. She blocked your number, Ethan added quietly. She said we shouldn't talk to you anymore because you don't want to help us. She calls you greedy and selfish, Noah said, his eyes welling with tears. Says you have plenty of money but don't care if we starve. I knelt down to their level. Listen to me. I love you both more than anything. Mom and I are having some disagreements about money, but it has nothing to do with you. I will always be here for you. I drove home with a plan forming in my mind. Mom was manipulating everyone, including my brothers. If I wanted to maintain my relationship with them, I needed to play her game, for now. The next day, I sent Mom another $1,000 within hours. My phone rang. Maria, darling. Mom's voice was syrupy sweet. Thank you for the money. I knew you'd come around. Of course, Mom. Family first, right? Absolutely. Why don't you come for dinner this Friday? The boys miss you. I accepted, secretly disgusted by how quickly her attitude changed. Friday arrived, and I brought dessert, an expensive cake I knew Mom would appreciate. The first thing I did upon arriving was check the refrigerator. It was fully stocked. Dinner was surreal. Mom chatted incessantly about household chores, acting as if they were major accomplishments. "I reorganized the linen closet today," she boasted. "And yesterday I finally got around to polishing the silver." I nodded, thinking about how normal people don't brag about basic adulting. The boys seemed happier, though, relaxed now that Mom wasn't trash-talking me. That alone made the extra money worth it. The next month, I sent $1,700 again without being asked. Mom was delighted, calling to thank me profusely. Our relationship seemed to be improving on the surface, but I knew it was all an act, on both our parts. A week later, Mom called with news. "Maria, I need a favor," she began. "I'm going on a little vacation to Hawaii. Just a week to decompress, you know? Could you stay with the boys?" "Hawaii?" The woman who couldn't afford groceries was going to Hawaii? "Of course," I said, keeping my boys neutral. "When?" "Next Tuesday. I'll be gone for 2 weeks." 2 weeks in Hawaii would cost thousands. Where was that money coming from? The $1,700 from me, $500 from Aunt Linda, maybe more from others. It was adding up, but Hawaii still seemed excessive. "No problem," I said. "I'd love to spend time with the boys." This was my chance. 2 whole weeks to figure out what was really going on. As I hung up, I knew one thing for certain. Mom was hiding something big, and I was going to find out exactly what it was. The day Mom left for her Hawaii vacation, I arrived at the house with my overnight bag and a mission. The boys were excited to have me stay, already planning movie marathons and video game tournaments. After getting the boys settled with dinner, I casually asked, "Do you guys know where Mom keeps important documents? I need to check something about Dad's old insurance policy." Ethan shrugged, "Probably in her office. She spends a lot of time in there on her computer." I waited until they were engrossed in a movie before slipping into Mom's bedroom. It felt wrong snooping, but I needed answers. The bedroom itself was a shock. The closet was packed with new clothes, the tags still on some items. Designer shoes lined the bottom shelf. A jewelry box on the dresser held pieces I'd never seen before. Mom's office was connected to her bedroom by a small doorway. Her laptop sat on the desk, closed but not locked away. I took a deep breath and opened it. The password screen appeared. What would Mom use? She wasn't tech-savvy and always used the same passwords for everything. I tried her name. Bingo. I started with her email, finding receipts for recent purchases, a $300 dinner at an upscale restaurant last week, a $2,500 shopping spree at a boutique downtown, and, most shocking, a confirmation for a luxury resort in the Maldives, not Hawaii, totaling $8,700 for a 2-week stay. Next, I checked her bank statements. Mom had 2 accounts, one for bills that showed minimal activity and matched what she'd told me about being broke, and another personal account that told a very different story. This second account showed monthly deposits of $3,000 to $5,000, far more than what I was giving her. The spending matched the luxury lifestyle evidenced by her closet, high-end restaurants, designer boutiques, spa treatments, and now this Maldives vacation. I scrolled back through the statements, trying to trace the source of this money. The regular deposits had started right after Dad died. Before that, there were occasional transfers from Dad's account, but nothing like these large monthly amounts. Something wasn't adding up. I opened a new tab and logged into Dad's email using his old password that he'd shared with me for emergencies. Most messages were now months old, but I filtered for bank communications. There it was, a notification of transfer from 3 days before Dad died. I checked the date again. Dad had been in a coma for 2 weeks before he died. He couldn't have made this transfer. I quickly cross-referenced the account number with Mom's statements. It matched her personal account, the one she was using to fund her luxury lifestyle. My hands were shaking as the truth dawned on me. Mom had transferred Dad's money, his entire savings, to her personal account while he was in a coma, unable to consent. Then she'd lied to me, to the lawyer, to everyone, claiming Dad had no savings. I needed professional help to navigate this. The next morning, after getting the boys off to school, I called Mr. Peterson, Dad's lawyer. "I need to see the complete statement of my father's accounts from before he died," I said. "As his heir, I have that right, correct?" "Yes, you do," he confirmed. "May I ask why?" I explained what I'd discovered, and he was silent for a long moment. "If what you're saying is true, this changes everything," he finally said. "Those funds should have been part of your father's estate and divided according to his will, half to you, half to your mother." "That's what I thought. Miss Carter, you could pursue legal action against your mother for this." The words hung in the air. Sue my own mother? The thought made me sick, but what she'd done was unconscionable. She'd stolen not just from Dad but from me, all while manipulating everyone with her poor widow act and neglecting my brother's needs. "Can we meet tomorrow?" I asked. "I'd like to discuss my options." The meeting with Mr. Peterson confirmed everything. The $400,000 transfer was clearly fraudulent. Mom had stolen the money, plain and simple, and I had enough evidence to take her to court. What would happen to my brothers if I did that? I asked. If your mother were found guilty of fraud, she could face jail time, he explained. In that case, the boys would need a guardian. Could that be me? Given your relationship to them and your stable situation, yes, you would be a logical choice for custody. I spent the next few days thinking about what to do, watching my brothers, who had no idea their mother was a thief. They missed her, talked about her coming home with souvenirs from Hawaii. They were innocent in all this. My decision crystallized the night before Mom was due to return. I would confront her, but I would also offer her a way out, one that protected my brothers and recovered what was rightfully mine without destroying our family completely. I put the boys on the bus the next morning, then waited in the living room for Mom's arrival. Around noon, I heard the key in the lock. Mom walked in, tanned and relaxed, pulling a designer suitcase behind her. Her smile vanished when she saw me sitting there. "Maria, where are the boys?" "At school," I replied calmly. "We need to talk, Mom, about Dad's $400,000. The color drained from her face. She tried to respond but no words came out. Then she did something I didn't expect. She burst into tears, but these weren't her usual manipulative sobs. These seemed genuine, the tears of someone who knew they'd been caught. "How did you find out?" she finally managed to ask. I placed the folder of evidence on the coffee table between us. "It doesn't matter how. What matters is that you stole that money while Dad was dying. You took what should have been half mine, and you lied to everyone about it." She collapsed onto the couch. "You don't understand. I was scared, Maria. I've never worked. I didn't know how I'd survive with the boys. So you committed fraud? Emptied Dad's account while he was in a coma." "I did what I had to do," she shouted, then caught herself. "What are you going to do?" I looked at her, this woman who had raised me but who I no longer recognized, and delivered my ultimatum. "I'm going to give you a choice, Mom. And you'd better think carefully before you answer." Mom stared at me, mascara running down her cheeks. "What choice?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Option 1. I take this evidence to the police. You'll be charged with fraud and theft. You'll likely go to jail, and I'll file for custody of Ethan and Noah." She gasped. "You wouldn't. They'd be orphans." "No, they wouldn't. They'd have me." I corrected her. "Option 2. You give me my rightful half of Dad's money, $200,000. I'll set up trust funds for the boys' college education with my portion. You'll get a job, a real one, and start acting like a responsible parent. And you'll give me access to your account so I can monitor your spending and make sure the boys are being taken care of properly." Mom's face contorted with anger. "How dare you try to control me? I'm their mother. A mother who lets her children go hungry while she vacations in the Maldives," I shot back. "A mother who steals from her dying husband and lies to everyone?" She fell silent, the truth of my words sinking in. "Those are your options, Mom. Jail and lose the boys, or cooperate and keep your family, your choice." "You can't be serious. The boys need me. The boys need food in the refrigerator. They need stability. They need a mother who doesn't use them as pawns to extort money from relatives." Mom covered her face with her hands. "They'll hate me if they find out." "I'm not planning to tell them, at least not until they're adults. Then they can make their own judgments. This isn't about punishing you, Mom. It's about making things right." She looked up, her eyes searching mine for any flexibility. She found none. "Fine," she conceded. "I'll do it." The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. I opened a new account for the transferred funds and immediately set up 2 college trust funds for my brothers. Mom, surprisingly, found a job at a local real estate office within 2 weeks. It turned out she had skills she'd never used during her marriage to Dad. I visited every weekend checking the refrigerator, always stocked now, and spending time with my brothers, who were thrilled that Mom and I seemed to be getting along better. They had no idea about our arrangement, and I planned to keep it that way. One evening, about 2 months after our confrontation, Mom and I sat on the back porch while the boys played video games inside. "I had my first showing today," she said. The client seemed interested. "That's good," I replied, still maintaining some emotional distance. "Maria," she hesitated, "I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I am sorry. I was terrified after your father died. I didn't know how to take care of myself, let alone the boys." "That doesn't excuse what you did." "No, it doesn't," she agreed, surprising me. "But I want you to know that I am trying to change. This job, it feels good to earn my own money. I should have done it years ago." I nodded, not quite ready to forgive but acknowledging her effort. "Just keep doing right by Ethan and Noah. That's what matters now." As the months passed, our new normal took shape. Mom continued working, even earning a promotion. I checked her accounts less frequently as she proved herself more responsible. The boys thrived with the stability, unaware of the drama behind the scenes. I still haven't fully forgiven Mom. I'm not sure I ever will. The betrayal runs too deep, the lies too calculated. But I've made peace with our arrangement for my brother's sake. Sometimes, when I watch Mom interact with the boys now, helping with homework, cheering at soccer games, being present in ways she wasn't before, I catch glimpses of the mother I thought I had growing up. Maybe she's finally becoming that person. Or maybe she's just a good actor. Time will tell. As for the future, my plan remains. When the boys are grown and independent, I'll sell Dad's house, split the proceeds with Mom as per the will, and let her live her life however she chooses. I'll buy a place large enough for my brothers to always have a home to return to when they need it. And one day, when they're old enough to understand, I'll tell them everything. Not to turn them against Mom, but because they deserve the truth. They can decide for themselves whether to forgive her. Last week, I found a photo of Dad in my old bedroom. He's smiling, his arm around me at my college graduation. He looks so proud, so certain that he'd prepared us all for a good future. In a way, he did, just not in the way he intended. His death revealed Mom's true character, forced her to become self-sufficient, and taught me to stand up for what's right, even when it's painful. And the money he saved, half of which now awaits my brother's education, will help them build their own futures. I visit Dad's grave sometimes, bringing fresh flowers and updating him on the boys' latest achievements. I like to think he'd approve of how I handled things. That somehow, I managed to honor his wishes while protecting his sons. Mom texted me this morning, asking if I'm coming for dinner this weekend. I'm going, of course, not for her, but for Ethan and Noah, and maybe a little bit for myself too. Because despite everything, they're still my family. Broken and imperfect, but mine.